Good morning and welcome to the Education, Sport and Children's Services Committee, which has been conducted from the Chamber and remotely through Microsoft Teams. Translation facilities are available for this meeting. Please ensure that you have your headsets, if required, which are available at the back of the Chamber. Please ensure your microphones are off, and before we would begin, I would like to invite Father Michael MacDonald to lead us in prayer. Thank you, Father Michael.
Good morning. Lord God, our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of your divine Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn of all creation. He suffered, died, and rose again, and through the blood of the cross reconciled humanity to himself and offered us peace through reconciliation. Father of mercies, bring peace to our troubled world. Support and succor the victims of war, especially old people, women, and children, those who cannot run. Sustain the work of peacemakers. Father, give us your grace in abundance, that we may place the dignity of each human person, and especially the dignity of each child in our care, at the forefront of our moral decision-making. May we be imitators of your Son, the Prince of Peace, and may we be missionaries of justice, hope, and reconciliation. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Okay, thanks, Father Michael.
Thank you.
Before we move on, I would just like to extend this committee's condolences to the Vice Chair, Councillor Mustafa Hussain, whose brother passed away quite suddenly. And so just to extend our condolences, Mustafa. Thanks. I would like to highlight some good news to members before we move on to the formal agenda. Royal National Mod Lochaber 2025. I would like to acknowledge and congratulate all the children and young people from our schools that took part in this year's Royal National Mod in Lochaber in October. Children from across the islands took part in many different competitions, and I want to particularly congratulate all the prize winners on their achievements. Special thanks to the staff and parents that support our young people to get ready for competition and to travel with them to allow them to take part. A note of congratulations as well to our staff that were taking part in adult competitions. Sgolwig. P6 and P7 pupils took part in a community-led sailing week as part of outdoor learning. They showed excellent teamwork, perseverance, and ability to follow instructions. All participants successfully completed the course and earned the Level 2 Youth Sailing Award. Sgolwig were also delighted to be awarded a Climate Action Award in recognition of our learning on sustainability and looking after our planet as part of the OH COP scheme. Sgolwig pupils took part in the Ocon Western Isles Creative Writing Competition, with 2 winning first prize in both Gaelic and English categories, age 8 to 12. 2 more pupils received highly recommended certificates. Castle Bay Community School. On October the 27th, Alistair Allen, MSP, visited Castle Bay School, speaking to P6 to S6 pupils about the democratic process and Scottish Parliament before answering their questions. He later met the secondary pupil leadership team for a lively discussion on topics including the new school build and the House of Lords. Congratulations to Ellie Howard, S1, and Eilean Chidley at P7 for winning the young people and junior categories in the Ocon art competition. Judge Edward Ross praised Ella's detailed use of colour and Isla's bold, energetic style. Sgollinaclit. Olcanan Siar is a film created by Sgollinaclit pupils and staff celebrating Gaelic language, music and culture across the Outer Hebrides. It explores how Gaelic thrives through creativity and community, highlighting young people's role in preserving heritage and strengthening cultural identity. The project stands as both a tribute to past generations and an invitation for the next to carry the Gaelic story forward with pride. Right, we'll move on. So now move to the agenda proper. And the first item is a minute of the meeting of the 23rd of September 2025. Do members agree to approve the minute? Okay, thank you. Item 2 is a minute of the meeting of the local negotiating committee teaching staff on the 18th of November 2025. Do members agree to note this item? Thank you. Declaration of interest. Members are asked to declare any interest they have on any items on the agenda. It would be useful or helpful if members express why they are declaring an interest in the items concerned. Members in the meeting, please do so now by pressing your microphone or remotely through Teams by using the raise hand function. Is there anybody who wants to declare any? Nope. Okie dokie. Right. Please ensure that the declaration is repeated prior to the relevant item, and if you forget now, and adhere to the protocol as previously indicated. So, before we move on to item 5, I want to move on to for item 4. I'd like to take item 5 first, if everyone's agreeable to that. And that's the mobile devices in education settings policy. This is a report to update the committee on work to develop a policy on the use of mobile phones in school and to share the draft policy for the consideration of members. Mr. David Downing will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks, David.
Thank you. This policy seeks to support school leaders across the collar to develop individual school policies in consultation with local stakeholders, including staff, children and young people and their parents and carers, which take account of their local setting and circumstances. All secondary schools in the collar already have effective mobile device policies, which have been developed in partnership with school communities. These are rooted in the positive ethos of the school and are having a positive impact on the learning and experience and well-being of children and young people. Personal mobile devices are not used as part of learning and teaching in primary schools, and as such they should not be taken into schools. All schools should review their current policy and practice to ensure that it is consistent with the national guidance and the collar policy, articulating clearly with the school ethos and existing policy and practice around relationships, learning and teaching, and anti-bullying. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. Does anybody have any questions for David? The policy at all? Councillor Francis Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair. I would like to say how pleased I am to see the element of flexibility for individual schools here, because I think we have to recognise that our schools are very, very different, our 4 secondary schools, and a policy that could be used for policing in the smallest school would be very, very difficult to implement in the biggest school. So I think that's a very sensible thing to have done, to have the overarching policy with the overarching intentions and allowing schools to model safe, respectful and appropriate use of digital devices. I also think that some of the work being done nationally and indeed internationally on ensuring that the big tech companies are held to account for what is available for young people to see will actually have a bigger impact in the long run than merely school policies. I think this policy is very, very well thought out of, and I'd like to congratulate all those involved in writing it.
Okay, thanks, Francis. Is anybody else? Nope. Oh, Councillor Ray Mackenzie. Oh, was it Paul? You were in first. Sorry, Paul. Didn't see it.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very pleased to see this report. I think it's something that's been a long time coming, and nationally and locally, I'm sure it'll be of great benefit. I don't know if there was a sort of finishing time for the, I won't say the experiment, but for the system to, to take place, basically, because what my question is, how soon can we be advised as an education committee or a council how it's actually operating? In fact, a regular update maybe.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it would be good to come back maybe in a year's time and see where we are. But the processes had different start times for each different school, because they've gone ahead and created their own mobile phone policies, which fits in with their own environment. And we heard earlier on there about the different size of school, different types of school, and what might work in one school might not work in another. So they've had an opportunity to already embed it, and they've already consulted with all of the parent councils, parents, pupils and staff within the school to make sure that it works for them. So I'll be getting back in touch with all the secondary schools to make sure that that's the case. But I'm happy to come back maybe in a year's time and report back if that seems a suitable timeline. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, thanks. Leader, sorry.
Thank you very much. Well,
You're
actually, my question was just asked. It was actually about 6.9, and schools should review their current policy. I was going to ask what the timescale would be. So I think that's useful. So if the report comes back with appendices of the different schools, that would be really useful.
Yeah.
But the other point I was going to make was the mitigations for health reasons. It's really good to see that, because obviously there's some need to monitor their health through different apps and stuff. So as long as there's sensitivities around that, then I'm quite happy with the report in front of us.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so there's no more questions. There's no, who's speaking? Oh, sorry, no, Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Maybe I'm a bit naive here. Could I ask for an explanation of why there's different policies in different schools? And as far as I can make out, the schoolie state is the schoolie state, and school pupils are school pupils, and they're all pretty much from the same kind of backgrounds. I don't understand, and I would like to be maybe educated on how there are different policies for different schools.
There are different policies for different schools, but in 3.3, the basic kind of premise is that permitted use of mobile phones and other digital devices may only be used, if at all, in accordance with each school's clearly developed policy. And with the classroom restrictions, it's essentially that the use of mobile phones and digital devices is strictly prohibited during lesson time unless explicitly permitted by the teacher for educational purposes. So essentially that is a consistent across all the schools. The variation comes in, there are areas or times of the day in different schools that they can say, yes, you'll be able to use your mobile phone at that time. For example, some people have it that you have to be out with the school building to have your mobile phone and use it. And other people have it that there's certain areas or times of the day when they can use it. But none of that is within the classroom. And that variation is because of the size and nature or what goes on within their own school. You know, some schools have a lot of the pupils leaving the grounds at lunchtime and break time, and they're off school premises, whereas other schools, largely everybody stays on the school premises and within the school grounds. So it's just for them to be able to set it up to whatever suits them and suits their young people. I don't know if that's answered the question. Hopefully it has.
Yeah, thanks for that, David. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no other questions, do members agree to approve the recommendations at 3.1? Okay, right, so we'll move on to item 4 now. We'll go back to item 4. And that's the outcome delivery report. And this report details the half-year progress of the 2024-25 departmental strategic priorities for education and children's services. Mr. Don McLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks, Don.
Thank. Yn tolig yn aich gysio o hort chymyti yn yw. Aich glyfr gyfwlion son dehach sli tron y bliwn seffi. Coes gyda Siar hawn. Gorau mae chwld yn yw at yr hangach gain ha glefa. Mae gyri godd yr ardrol lwa godd mich dyn jesio lyson gwain yn edrych hangach eich. Se eis glán agus mína trocha hasio agus am gyri tai gyhort gonna hoffi ger yn chwtich mi yslydig oper rhain ffylm agus siarfys yn chlanier I chéle a tor oper yn ei tachart har eisiau liefli o'n naes gysio y brinir agus sy'n tolig sio hort gobeil yn yw son fysach y hord yn oper hynny tachart har eisiau rhain y siamias yn chasiechet. Fysach gyharad yn y iaran I siech mae yn operasiwn nes y ianu son dys y ianu le planig yn lifrig bwlion y siarafys agos cwdioch cwtrmoch fysach cwysyn enefys son y rhain cwdioch ac iaran hoch as yn aisg. Am dirach dy hwgl amach cwyd Fainkin am hynnes mynd ffraceroch ac am cwdioch tolig cwestiwn sy'n mi hwgal fo beil hami ddysio brin naes cyn. Dwi'n mi'n hosioch gag siech pwynt gaga, gyda bliwn ma y fawn is son colonich i'n as yn ysgoltion ac yn gyharach as mae'n chan ysyn y BGE, hwn ysyn arfyn y geiri gymwr ysyn agos dor betachard ysyn ysgoltion ac yn sgipi son cymal yn operation yn ard agos ysyn tolich ffynken gyda colonich torn y siar ymliwn agos ysyn biach yn di sy'n operilianting i'r gan y naflan yr eich Jenna Kendrick cael sy'n cymal sy'n suas. Ac siech pwynt gyda eich a ffysig yn gael cwysyn ac yma cwtymwch sy'n mynd i'r cwr ymchwani yr ast agos gyharad as na traed yn sy'n mynd i'r ffilm ciant i sgoltion. Ha aisg ac yn agenda yn chwar yn yw cwjoch y brin i'r operation i gywyr i ianw sy'n tylig erdys i ianw yr ysyn. Mi brin yr ymwneud Siar. Hami dylech sy'n hwg mi ymwneud ciar ac siech pwynt gynnau. Siech pwynt gynnau bychor fi brin greu gynnau ymsa hysyn i gwybod ysgrwydych a tachard o'n siarad sy'n clania gwael ysdech hwnnw cael giant sy'n compart chys y hacking le siarad sy'n chymig i'r siarad sy'n clania ar asio per gyma cwtr moch asyn agos bys yn tolish aich gyhort con a chymiti as y flynwyr le ffysig o ddim ar y chai ysgrwyd ag a tachart dro siarad sy'n chlania ar ast. Ac siech pwynt siadiag hafys gyma un sy'n tachart yn y Rhain Sfors gyharad le ardych asyn i ffynken on a lwchgyn dych on schemas launch fa agos rydw ma sy'n gyharad ffochau pris yn ard is yn y schema hysyn a chysyn i'r ffynken yn chwaer noch cath y clech gysyn gymwr agos yr eist i'r chlar yn yw hat tylich fysach y tîn i'r biech gan y chwaer noch mae un garas yn spors gyharad agos bydde sy'n barach brin i enw ysyn yn orsyn. Ac siech pwynt ffychyd sy'n ceir sy'n bychor gyda brin i'r cwr ymchwani a mi dylech yn fri metr o ra. A mi tics gyda cwys gyma cwtymach a sio son y chwrla sy'n eich cwr ymchwani haris yn y hil yn yr ffat gyharad as na trair yn sy'n mynd i'r sgoltion. Hasyn ni sŵlach eich barach gwybod y ianw yr ysyn as na mi as na rwy'n agos a eich gyda chlar yn yw is o'n tylich brin y ianw yr ysyn. Cydioch bys ni tord chwn y comiti yn yw aes gachau gennym i'r rawnsach eich le parent yn as y nog fi as na betrai ym liwna a dod ffysach eich biach yn parent yn yr ysyn agos sydd cwtymwch a hasyn cydioch. Mae mi gywyr i adrych y cydioch ac pwynt siech ffydd sy'n eich gael manager na y siarfys trai yn yr asta am ddiach sy'n ffalw so sy'n ei gwybod i'r planau is o'n stioch eich manager yw'r sy'n hiarfys. Ac siech pwynt trichyd ha fysach eich mae un yn operation i gennydd y ffilm Trivian y Gaelig gyharad cydioch gymliwna ffynken arfys mwyf ac yn yr iaf oedd siech tro ffilm Trivian y Gaelig o'n clas y hyn ac ysgryd ma hasyn gymwr. Ha cydioch fysach mae un operation i gennydd ac yma cydmoch le ffeisyn y gael haris yn y hilanen agos fysach mae un farbys jesbydd cydioch. Ac siech pwynt trichyd y Siar a pwynt yma cwtrymoch gyfod sy'n diolch y strep sy'n di daich i'r bliwna o ffach ffilm Trivian y Gaelig ysdiach ag as na hilanen agos am i gyr i ffysa hod dy feil gael sy'n tosig o prochach i'r prosiect ciach dysio ynaim cwtrymoch a hasyn. Ac siech pwynt trichyd y hwch a ffysach cydioch mae un o br Liorlan, siarfys Liorlan agos yr eist a aes gac yn yw y tord ffysach eich dyfeil mae un y rawnsach eich a fyr i ianw leis eich oes noch le plan ar rwy'n i loch siarfys Liorlan agos a ffysach eich ma sy'n cydioch gas yn aes mae un chotrangs a ha'n siarfys Liorlan le liechyd mil yn iech tol dyn ysdiach tro Liorlan neu hylan as y aim yn aes gybrien. Sy'n ma sy'n eicyn sy'n siarfys ac yma cwtymwch yn y rhain i hasyn cydioch. Dol yr ard go fusion innofis a ffytach ag iawn i hwch mae un sy'n eich innofis y rhain. Cwtch gan y lein ich yn yr ast a siol gael underspend sacking y sydd sio ac sy'n ir a haliach slid tron y fliwna a cwtch da gafr yn esonsyn agos adr sgrif jas yn aisg. In cwtramach i'n sy'n sé ag aim chai yn aisg sgrifau char o caid i'r pag ys o'n teacherin ys o'n ymliwna agos sy'n yn eisiau ysdiwch ys a caid ac yn i'r sy'n agos hyd sy'n ysdiwch yn y fod sy'n siachla yr ysdiwch. Agos iawn yn eich a ffyswch mae un plan yn lwch gwproch y rhain ys o'n beili sy'n cydioch. A mi tig sgol to'r ffyswch yn aisg ysio, a mi'n noch ys gyn garich beil gyrw Bysrachol agos gymryd gaif bysr fesul larag opr y rhain sy'n eich siam i as yn eich aich. Sa'n mi tolig gilior yn eich cystion sy'n mi heg beilir ac yr cael efas yn aisg.
Okay, thanks, Lord. Councillor Francis Murray. And yeah, if you switch, who's got their line? So, oh, Norrie. Oh, let me go to Norrie first then, because Norrie's on first. You go first, Norrie.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I'm not going to be long. I'm just point 7, 2.1 with regard to the Island Games and the Western Isles Island Games Association and support for the team that this corner provides directly and indirectly, and the work of Ian G. Campbell and Michael Stone particularly, and every single member here who contributes to the award funding to the costs of going to the Island Games. I can only express my thanks and the thanks of the team in its entirety for your support and hopefully continued support. So thank you very much for it, to everybody who's helped us participate. So thanks, guys.
Cheers, Norrie, thanks.
A mi dwi'n nad y hwg misyn bachog fi a tog like checkpoint fi hyn mae un yn oper ha a rhaid gianw tor taich gyson na gymyn yn at y nation yn y helen yn session matoli fi can chomas chaiad ymliwna agos asyn taigol mae'r hwrt mae'n siwr mae'n gwyl chotolig sa hasyn mae un sy'n.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Francis Murray.
Thanks very much. I've got, I think, 3 questions ranging across the report. First one, not so much a question, just a suggestion. At 7.16, Slanchava membership surpassing 3,000 active subscriptions, and obviously with family memberships, and that says it's taking around 8,000 members across the Western Isles. I just wondered, should we be having a membership drive on this, maybe using social media? Because I think it could be more. It's it's encouraging that it's increasing, but obviously since COVID, it's one of these things that people perhaps let drop, and I think the benefits for families are immeasurable, really. And then going on to 7.17 and 7.18, it's really encouraging to see what's going on in terms of supporting children for after school lessons and Saturday morning lessons. And I think the conversations that are going to be coming up on some of the pools, it is important to see the community using the pools as much as possible. My second point was on 7.34. I think it's just something missing in that one. It sort of finishes before it's finished, I think, on the Jespit competition. The last sentence reads, significant work took, it should say, place during this reporting period too. And then there's nothing there. And it would be interesting to know what was going to be there. At 7.36, it's really great to see that 40 years since the first GME class was established in the Western Isles, and the plans are in the infancy for that. I just wonder if it would be good to hear from some of these young people who were in the first classes and hear what they've gone on and done in life, because I think there's an amazing range of jobs that they went into, from I think the space industry down the way. It'd be really good. Part of that celebration was listening to the voices of these young people who were in that first cohort. And then the final one I wanted to say was, I was interested to see that the library service was getting funding from Arts Council England, which kind of surprised me slightly. So that would be interested to hear how and why that happened. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Francis.
Thank you, Sonshid. Took me na point in Eilean. Hier tritt me in Slanchava. Ha askak man every me askak in Genartic point Jake a klar in you me in Shervishin Yorland agus Shervishin Porsche agus Slanch agus be Cormac in Breen back in Varachrishin. A chyrwant o'ch ei iannu leis yn hoes noch mae'r ha eisiau na sech gan eich ai ha tog gael tor taicon gyharys ti'n Michael spors agos launch agos program launch efa agos hasyn y ffic yn corm yn gwneud sy'n y ffwtach tor efa arach le coes noch yn gyharys yn y corm yn a chyn ti'n Michael yn y hiln yn y bion yn y rwy'n is o'n ffic yn catch just soaring and fast agos pwtach efarach corm yn ysyn gol suas gema slant efa. Fashion gyma tollig ffic yn sy'n y ffas ym Leona, gyharad sech yn eich na pris yn art bycan, ac a dyn i hast y ffic yn greu cosgis fa hon ys o'n chyrlich agos gylad gachlech gymwr, agos dyn i lyc y joc. So asyn i ffic yn tron yn oper asyn gyda corm yn tylig awn, ach brin y sy'n bycan y farach gyda sy'n gyda'r naes gynnu ac pwynt gyda jeich. So narna ceist y hwgsw mae un fath bys jespyd, ac catch it was a chlar yn eisiau sech pwynt trichyd sy'n ceir. Am y dwylich gro merach sy'n as yn aisg. Bychol gafi ar y hwgal a tamil trwch hwnna jech y hwgal dron y sio. By'n mynd i'n sio gyma trich gach am ei has dŵr yn y cawl pwynt na ga. Brin i mi eisiau noffi geraf os gawn yn iesbyd agos cyrmi ffys i'r as i'r de ha gi a de ha gawn i'r paragraff a hasyn. A mi smioch mi hi'n greu grwa dofrin i'r nobrach Eilean ys yn ta barach sgolch yn ysgech agos taich gyhort y scholar yn son o fi gen y jesio lys yn gwael parstas yn arbys. Ach gen i mi cainjoch i'r ysyn agos i'ch mi ar as y gwir. Yr yng nghysg mae un daich bliwn y ffilm trefyn a galig, smynach greu fa hasyn cydioch agos brym i sy'n yr asgon y mwy yn a torsach ysdioch i'r agos bys ni sŵrach eich gynos yn iaith con yna sech gan y chymyti hasio is o'n ffysig o hortyd y planich yn y hacking is o'n gornawn daich bliwn y ffilm trefyn a galig se milestone gyma cwtmoch a hasyn clach fila gyma cwtmoch is o'n ysgema ac mae gyma cwtmoch yn galig i'r le cydioch agos brin i sy'n i farach gyda sy'n sbyrmyd ard na biech gan ac yw'ch yn y bwyn ac gwybod ydy sy'n. Agos yn hoig mae i'r smag gyffe mi agor go manager siarfas liorgan gyda brin yr yna fer gyda'n assasing a hanner y fysi chi yn ysyn liorad lan ac yn i'm leona.
Am I on? Yes. No, I'd love to talk about it. So we're one of only 20 library services in the whole of the UK to get the Arts Council for England funding for the Our Freedom Project. So that's on our socials and it's been in lots of the papers, but we had Dr. Anne Frater as a reader in residence in Stornoway Library, going through the gazettes and other heritage material, looking for stories about women in the Hebrides during World War II. So that's the celebration, well, commemoration since VE Day. So there'll be a little bit more coming out about that in the new year, about what she found. There's one really intriguing story about a local woman who was producing poetry and things around that time. So.
Okay, thanks, Cheers. Right, are there any other questions, comments? Councillor Ray Mackenzie.
Yes, a couple of things. I seem to be raising this at every meeting, but Stornoway Primary, I don't think there's anything specifically in here was mentioned at the last meeting. Kind of an update on the situation there. And the other thing is that I was out at Macaulay College a few weeks ago, and I think they were talking about transport, and I think the problem was transport from the bus station to the college. And I wonder if there's a particular problem there because people can get into the main bus station, but there's a problem getting out from 9 o'clock or whatever it is out to the college. Now, I don't know the full facts about that, but I'd be interested to see if somebody could maybe follow that one up. Yeah.
We'll look at that now.
It's on the hiad case Kiansti and got a sport ag Bunskos Journaway. She tamil John go nach el fisige gewarch semi akem in a project sin is on a hort gonna committee in you ma vig fisige needs vi akem mission hier ask hort gonna committee ach has te is on a project in ag fair in ide se va er vriensiert ma jerig. Have og gryd olth go collage Macaulay. Can you Cain Jack and Mir and who's better versi bri nach fiing tolich correct my yen agus fiachin the fikin ver calasooning a rainy yanu is on taikort go gris on shin yanuach yemi back in a varach Cain just fiscal we can a say agus the attacker de shin ach fiing tolich round shin yanu agus frecker to hot ash.
Thank you. Thanks for that last one. I'm extremely disappointed, like you are, obviously, about the situation with Stornoway Primary. And again, I don't think I'll be on the council by the time I see a spade in the ground.
Councillor Angus Morrison.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of the committee, but it's 8.3 about the shortfall in school meals income, which is 10% lower than budget for 24-25. Just wondering, is any specific indicator for that, and is it across the whole school estate? It's encouraging to see it is improving, but 10% seems quite a drop in school meal revenue.
You mean back in the Barrack Browns, okay, you know, in over it's on naar CS Jake Point into here. Had tor achre tacher de rast is Pagason bier skole real disset Barrack Taik son skole na fine bier Sir Sanaski agus could you project in the tacher de son Koskish in her CS. You mean Barrack Browns could you know man can't in over CS Jake Point into here it's been tolich bracket to the ash go Mr. Morrison is on sin and block cage in over and me peeking off get us in yomer and you a give cage edition I think tolich sin her to rash a yomi piss me yin.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So if there's no more questions or comments, do members agree to note the report? Thanks. I will just take that back to your eye areas. Right, we'll move on to item 6. Which is, excuse me, the proposed review of early learning and childcare provision. It seeks approval from the caller to commence a review of early learning and childcare provisions across the Western Isles in respect of the corporate strategy outcome relating to family-friendly support. Ms. Mary Claire Ferguson will speak to the report and answer any questions. Mary Claire, thanks.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. The purpose of the report is to seek approval from the caller to commence a review of the early learning and childcare provisions across the Western Isles in respect of the corporate strategy outcome relating to family-friendly support. One of the 4 strategic priorities as outlined in the corporate strategy for 2024 to 27 is the provision of support for children, families and young people. And within that priority is a commitment to provide high-quality childcare facilities that meet the needs of working parents. In respect of the strategy, in respect of the strategic outcomes and priorities, the Education Services aiming to develop an implementation plan relating to family-friendly support, and an essential part of this is to undertake a broad review of current provisions and develop a deep understanding of the needs and aspirations of our parents. 2.3 outlines the early stages of the planned exercise, which is a scoping exercise and the review is intended to include operating locations, opening hours, access, service capacity, language streams, childminding and after-school provisions and non-statutory childcare. It also aims to explore enablers and barriers that are present in the provision of childcare services to support working parents. It is recommended that the caller agree to undertake a review of early learning and childcare provision in the interest of informing the development of an implementation plan for the corporate strategy outcome on family-friendly support. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Marie Claire. Does anybody have any questions for Marie Claire? Councillor Angus McCormack.
Thank you very much, Chair. And thank you, Mary Claire, for your report. A very important area of work, and there have been issues in recent years about the ability to retain young people, young working people in our communities because of a lack of childcare. So it's very important, and I welcome the fact that we're going to review it and try and establish what we require for the future. I attended a meeting yesterday afternoon with Councillor George Murray of the Sandwich Hub project, where the intention is that a childcare facility would be set up in Sandwich, in the Sandwich Hall. Early days yet, of course, but quite a bit of work has been done on it already, sort of preparatory work. And one of the individuals at the meeting suggested that there might be finance available from the Scottish or UK governments to help with the setting up of such projects. And I wondered, Mary Claire, if you had any information about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I don't have information at hand just now, but we certainly, over the last number of years, we certainly have worked alongside the Scottish Government to support such plans as that. So we'd be happy as an early learning and childcare service to support such a plan going forward, and we would certainly work alongside the organisation to support.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I can assure you we'll be in touch.
Okay, thanks, Angus. Leader.
Thanks very much. Really glad to see this report. I think it's one of the areas that keeps coming to my inbox, certainly. Early years and childcare and the ability of people to get back into the workforce. So I think it's just right. I mean, the work that was done over the summer, really useful data information to have, but I think a further review of the provision on the detail that Mary Claire was mentioning, I think it's going to be really, really important, because again, we touched on one of the previous reports, you know, what works in Castleby isn't what's going to work in Eilean or what's going to work in North Hughes. So, you know, there's going to be different needs across different communities and at different times. So I suppose being able to review it constantly or consistently or regularly, because as there's population booms in different parts of the islands, it's going to be important that we're able to match the provision to the demand. So I think this piece of work is really, really important, and I'm glad to see the report in front of us today.
Thanks, Lee. Do you want to come back, Don?
Yeah, I'm dúirt of Rian Savialis and Shaw. This is a really important report for us as a service as well, Leader, and I appreciate your acknowledgement of that, because we receive a lot of representation on it as well, as I'm sure, as you've acknowledged, you do and many other members do as well, and it's been a challenging area of policy and service delivery for us for some time. I think it is important to acknowledge what's described at 6.6 there with the survey that we do. We have, it's as described in the report, there's a requirement for us to survey our population on this matter every couple of years, and that was done in conjunction with the Improvement Service, and the report is appended to this report, and there's some really positive messages in there as well as some challenges. But we also acknowledge that report, which is a general format, wasn't going to be sufficiently wide-ranging to delve into the issues that we know are around the whole spectrum of childcare and provision for direct childcare, scholaric and nursery provision, childminders, after school care, wraparound care, holiday care. It's a multifaceted issue that contributes together into the whole picture of childcare across the islands. So we felt it was really time now to have a twofold look. Firstly, to engage with our communities to say, well, what are people really wanting and asking for? And that can be challenging because it moves around as population demographic shifts and changes. So there's an element of it needing to be dynamic and responsive. But also I think it is, in terms of the interests of the Chamber as well, important to highlight at 6.4 that the Comhairle has to be realistic in what it in itself can achieve and deliver, and also what it has responsibilities and duties to do as an enabler and supporter of communities to help develop their own solutions. And as Councillor McCormack has described there may be communities looking at ways of creating innovative and interesting solutions, and we've seen some of that already taking place, and we do see a particularly important role for the Comhairle and their early years team in trying to support communities to develop their own solutions, as well as looking at what we have either statutory or community or corporate strategy commitments to undertake and deliver. So I think it is a really important report in itself and an important piece of work to bring ahead. So we hope that it will receive the support of members today.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Don. Does anyone else want to? Councillor Norrie MacDonald.
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. It would be remiss of me in my connection with sustainable development to not stress how important childcare is to sustaining population and developing and growing the population here in the Western Isles. But one of the things, and it's possibly a tenuous link, maybe for the Sustainable Development Committee and other committees, we're talking about an influx of workers coming here to help with the renewables project. And we're providing, or they're providing financial support to build housing, which will later be passed on in 5 years' time to the local housing authority here. I would like to think that that kind of housing would be not just dormitories for working men predominantly, I would imagine, that there's some kind of housing provided so that we can maybe make an appeal for families to move. Somebody comes with his wife and family, maybe, because there will be job opportunities outside of the renewable sector to do with, supporting and maintaining the housing that's going to have to be used, and it's going to impact on other areas and maybe take jobs away from others. So there'll be people looking for work, and there will be job opportunities. We have a skills gap probably in the care sector, etc. So we need to, as a Comhairle, try to attract permanent residents, possibly, if they see the benefits of moving here and having a stable job where they can bring a family. So that might be something worth exploring. We don't just want an influx of 500 guys who come here and work and then leave, and we end up with their houses. If it's an opportunity to make somebody come here, see the benefits of coming here and setting up a residence themselves and their family, maybe enjoying the benefits of living and working in the Western Isles, and then maybe looking for support for the childcare sector through the main companies who will be coming here and bringing these the workforce here. So it's possibly something that we can explore outside of this committee. But I certainly see this as an opportunity to get a permanent residents coming to live and work, not just for the opportunities that's going to be available for 4, 5, 6 years. It might entice people to come and maybe set up permanently here and reverse the population decline that we're experiencing.
Okay, thanks, Norrie. Thanks. Okay, Councillor Nachi McNeill.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. Very important is childcare, and it's a regular problem for us all. There's currently a pilot being conducted in Barrawell. We could get pre-work for a pilot in childcare. Could you give me an update on where we are with that, Marie-Claire, and when can we expect the findings from the piece of work that's been done?
Okay, Marie-Claire. Yeah.
Councillor McNeill, I'm not sure if you're referring to the Euston Barra Forum that's been taking place on over a regular basis over the past year. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, yeah, and the piece of work that's been done for childcare on Barra and in particular to for the for the childcare pilot provision.
I haven't received yet a report, Councillor McNeill, from that exercise that's taking place just now in Barra, but I'll certainly look into it and ensure that I'll get a report to you as soon as.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. I just want to bring Donald in here quickly, Angus, just to refer to Norrie's points. Yeah, that's okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'll maybe just respond on a couple of things. First, sorry, I'll come back to what Councillor MacDonald there raised. I think the links are far more than tenuous. I think it's actually critical that we have that in the Sustainable Development Forum as well. And there's crossover in both the points raised recently. I wish to reassure that we as a service are looking at this in a two-pronged way. We have been raising throughout the need and consideration for childcare to form part of these major development plans, and there are opportunities there to leverage some of that work to support the growth of our childcare. So we do recognise that families are going to come. It's certainly the information that we have at the moment indicates that families will form part of that workforce. So we're looking at where we need to bring growth to that particular sector, but also similarly we are working with colleagues to look at where there are opportunities for workforce there as well. There can be some challenge in that in terms of Gaelic, which is something we'll have to consider separately, but we've been working with colleagues across the social care, IJB, and with the major developments to look at how we can tie in workforce opportunities for the wider family members that are coming, hopefully with the workforce that are here to work on energy projects, but also what that means for growth in our childcare provisions. So I just wish to reassure Councillor MacDonald on that. In terms of what Councillor McNeill raised, my understanding is that that was a project funded through the Repopulation Fund, through Economic Development and the Youth and Barra Childcare Forum. So it's not one that's come directly through our department, but as Mary Claire Ferguson has said, we'll collate a response to that and provide it to Mr McNeill in due course.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Councillor Angus McCormack.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to follow on from Councillor MacDonald said, the meeting that I attended yesterday in Sandwick was attended. There was an attendance representative from HHP, and they recognised that the properties that were being built in the area would have to accommodate families. That was their plan, and so we are anticipating that there will be a significant influx of families into the area. There are two developments. There's one in Melbourne West, and then there's the other one down just beside the airport turnoff. So there's a significant increase of population coming in there, and we're hoping that a lot of that will be families. And that is why we are arguing that the hub at Sandwick is so important, because neither of these big developments have any facilities or support services built in. And these, we are hoping that these will be supplied through the Sandwick hub. And therefore we would very much welcome discussion with education on the future provision, and particularly for preschool children. That seems to be something that's very much highly in demand and will likely to be highly in demand. But there are other services that we might fit in there too, like laundry services and small shop services, support services for elderly people. All of these can be fitted in on that campus, and very much is required there. And so I'm hoping that both this committee and the Sustainable Development Committee will bear us in mind when they are thinking of the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Angus.
Yes, thanks, Councillor McCormack, for raising that point. As members will have noted, I'm sure, when planning considerations were taking place for these projects, we had highlighted that whilst we believed there to be sufficient provision of statutory school age capacity in primary and secondary for such development, we have highlighted throughout that that is not the case for preschool childcare, and that has to be a wider consideration of the scale of development. Where I think it is but a total of 249 houses across these two developments that Councillor McCormack is referencing, and current childcare in the two catchments that would be affected by that would not be sufficient if the number of families come that would be expected. So we would be delighted to work with and engage with the committee that Councillor McCormack references to explore how we can support development of childcare facilities within a Sandwick hub. And I would be happy to take up any invitation to attend future meetings of that organisation if they wish us to.
Okay, thanks, Donald. Right. Councillor Duncan McInnes.
Yeah, I'm not a member of the committee, but I certainly welcome this report, and having a look at, all the partners that are on the community, out of everybody's community planning partnership. One of the main drivers is to increase population, which is, key to the future well-being of the islands. And as Councillor McCormack said, the houses that are being built at the airport with SSEN contribution, many of those are for families coming in, and it's key that folk that are coming in with wives, that there are opportunities available for them. And the repopulation study that was done in UST clearly identified the need for many people that were wanting in, and the reason they couldn't come in was the lack of child provision. And certainly the feedback from those that are using the service is very positive, I would say. And I see that the demand for Gaelic within childcare is very good. And one of the biggest challenges may be, getting those trained to deliver that service, up to speed in the Gaelic language. Some of the ones that were negative in some respects, I note, were in areas that there were problems in recruiting childminders, and we were aware of those areas. Tarbert was one of the areas that had been identified as, very difficult to retain staff and to get staff in. But I think this is a positive way forward, and it blends in well with people coming in maybe for even a 1 to 5 year period in the families, and many of them hopefully will stay and raise young people in the community. Because the important thing is, when we look at the population trends that we have seen lately with us, on the population decline, is that we're increasing the demographics, in the older segment, but probably one of the reasons we're not increasing in the lower age groups is lack of facilities for childcare. And the Health Board in particular are making reference at all times, on how difficult it is to recruit staff. And all I'm saying is the Health Board, all the public sectors recruiting staff from the mainland, and that's one of the barriers from them not coming in, is having access to childcare, in particular when both people coming in are working on the mainland and an opportunity to work here, but will not come due to lack of things. So I welcome this, and a strategic way forward, to make sure that that provision is available. I must say, Western Isles wide, not just in the towns and in the remoter areas as well, to attract younger people into those more remoter communities.
Yes, thank you, Jay. Just to pick up on a couple of the Councillor McInnes's points there. I think firstly, partnership is a key one, because as much as this will evaluate the Comhairle's own responsibilities for service delivery, as I've mentioned previously, and we'll look at our statutory responsibilities and also our non-statutory aspirations, that is going to have to involve partnership. And it's interesting you mentioned, for instance, the Health Board and that, and the report will hopefully explore where we can work in more partnership with large employers and other providers to strengthen the childcare provision, because I think it is important to acknowledge that this cannot be seen to be a council solution alone. We have to look at community solutions, we have to look at partnership across the CPP partners and possibly beyond to see where we can work together to strengthen provision. I think important points have been made as well in relation to the potential for workforce to come through these developments, and we have to be ready not just in terms of having the vacancies, but as has been pointed out by Councillor McInnes, possibly opportunities for training and skills development as well, to make sure that the increase in population that we are forecasting to come can access the training that they need to then subsequently access the vacancies that we expect to have. I think Gaelic, as I've mentioned, will be an interesting one for us in this, because it may shift some of the expectations around Gaelic language acquisition and Gaelic provision, but we have to see that as an opportunity as well. So thanks to Councillor McInnes for his comments on that.
Thanks. Right, I think we've aired it quite well, so we'll bring it to a close. Do members agree to approve the where are we now? Approve the recommendations at 3.1. Thanks. Right. Okie dokie, we'll move on to item 7. And this report is to inform the caller of the outcome of the inspection of Scoldalborough by His Majesty's inspectors from Education Scotland in June 2025. Ms. Mary Claire Ferguson will speak to the report and answer any questions. Thanks, Mary Claire. Cheers.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of the report is to inform the caller of the outcome of the inspection of Scoldalborough by His Majesty's inspectors from Education Scotland. A team of inspectors visited Scoldalborough in June of this year for a short model inspection, which involved a 3-day visit to the school. 6.1 within 6.1, the report explains how the report was published in September of this year and highlighted the strengths of the school through the mediums of both Gaelic and English. As The first one being children are polite, friendly, respectful and support each other well in both learning and social interactions. They sustain positive relationships with staff who actively encourage their successes. Children make good progress in literacy through English and Gaelic, as well as in numeracy and maths. They take part enthusiastically in a wide range of language, sporting, cultural and music and leisure activities. Staff and partners effectively nurture children's individual interests and language fluency through diverse experiences. And the final one, over time, the planning of staffing and the role of partners has been used well to strengthen children's high quality immersion in Gaelic language and culture. Younger children initiate conversations confidently in Gaelic, both independently and in small groups. And the acting head teacher has a clear vision for improving further children's learning experiences and to raise attainment. The areas for improvement were outlined in 6.2, and these were identified and discussed with the acting head teacher and myself as the head of education. These areas have now been included in an action plan and other aspects of the development outlined in the inspection process. The school is already making good progress to address these areas and the action points which were outlined within the report. It's recommended that the Comhairle note the findings of the inspection report, including key strengths and areas for development, and support the ongoing work of School Dallybrook to develop and implement an effective action plan which will address the areas for improvement within the HMI report. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thanks, Marie-Claire. Leader.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm declaring a partial interest because I was involved in the inspection. I was one of the community reps and also as a parent rep. But the comment I was going to make was I think it's actually a really good report. I think the fact that our children are making really good progress in literacy, English, Gaelic, numeracy, maths, they're all the things we want to see for our children. You know, the planning and staffing that's happening, the work with the community, with Gaelic and the different organisations that are supporting the school. There are obviously some areas for improvement, but still seeing it satisfactory and good when your children are doing well. It's a strange kind of place to be, and you'd expect that to be slightly higher. But like I say, I'm really good at. I would say it, but our main asset is the children. The children are fantastic, and I think it's a really good school environment. So it's good that that's coming through in the report, and that's with the support of the staff in the school and the teachers and the department that are supporting them as well. So I just wanted to make that point about it. You know, I felt it was a really good experience going through the inspection, sorry, and the results have clearly come through in the report. But yeah, just slightly disappointed that satisfactory and good aren't a little bit higher.
Do you want me to mention that? Yeah, Marie-Claire mentioned it, yeah. Do you want to come back, Marie-Claire, at all?
Yeah, well, just thank you, Leader, and I would agree. I also was part of the inspection process. It was 3 days, but there were 3 very intense days. But I do think that the report very much reflects the school where they're at. The grading is always difficult, but we were accepting of, I think, the narrative around the report. But thank you for your comments.
Thanks. Thanks, Michael. Donald, do you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you. Thanks to the leader for his comments and his experience of this particular setting as well. We were pleased to see the acknowledgement of the strengths in the report, and they are, as the leader has pointed out, really important strengths as well. And seeing the outcomes for the children being so positively recognised is really important and something to encourage. We were equally disappointed to see satisfactory as the grading of the first quality indicator, but these are marginal judgments that have to fall along the way somewhere. But for anyone who is interested, it's difficult to get the full sense of the inspection from a 1.5-page summary report that the HMI produce. But there is a link provided where both in the report and our report and in theirs, where you can delve into the summarised inspection findings, and that gives a much more detailed narrative that might help understand why judgments were made in a particular direction. So anyone wishing to find more information, I would encourage you to engage with the summarised inspection findings report for the school.
I think, as I said, I think the inspectors themselves, it was borderline whether they would give it good or satisfactory. So, right, okay, if there's no more questions, do members agree to the recommendations at 3.1? Thanks. Right, we'll move on to item 8, which is Chief Social Work Officer Annual Report 2024-25. This item details the annual report of the Chief Social Work Officer on the statutory social work undertaken during the reporting period, the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st of March 2025. Mr. Michael Stewart will speak to the report and answer any questions. Michael, thanks.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Just. The report in front of committee today, as summarised there, relates to the 2024 to 2025 reporting period, and it provides an overview of local social work services. It's probably important for Chamber to know that there's reports done across all 32 local authority areas. Those reports are collated by the Office of the Chief Social Work Advisor to Scottish Government, and then a national report summarising the local reporting will be produced later in the reporting year, which sets out the picture of social work across Scotland. The report follows a nationally agreed template and includes information which I won't go into too much detail given the full report is available, but it includes information on governance and accountability, service quality and performance, resources, workforce, and a section on looking ahead. The key message is really over across the 3 social work services. Obviously, this committee has a particular interest in children's services, but the report covers across adult services and justice social work as well. The key messages across the services were that social work services have met the statutory requirements of them across the reporting period. Improvement and developments have been made within the reporting period in spite of a challenging context for all social work services of increased demand and in some places reduced resources. Social work services across the spectrum have had challenges relating to vacant posts and recruitment at different times during the reporting year. However, it's also been a time when staffing has remained otherwise stable. Both adults and children's social work recruited social workers in the reporting period through the trainee social worker opportunities, and there's a specific comment within the full report about the success of that, and it's an approach we are continuing in this reporting year. I'll set out briefly, Chair, just some of the points of note across the 3 services. So across adults, as an example, the main features in the reporting year across 24-25 were the ongoing development and use of Seaforth House at Goat Hill, the residential facility that members will know well. Specifically, though, during the reporting period, the closure of the 38-bed care home in Stornoway and the successful integration of care of those residents locally, which was challenging to services to be able to manage that across an already full estate, was of note. And also of note in adult services, the positive improvement recognised within the Care Inspectorate Progress Review that took place within the reporting period related to adult support and protection services was very welcome. Specifically to Justice Social Work Services, the service appointed both a team leader and a social work post that had remained vacant for extended periods. So in such a small service, that's quite an issue about capacity. So it's a real positive those have been recruited too. The service successfully implemented bail supervision services locally per national expectations, and also took part in completion of a supported self-evaluation of justice social work services in partnership with the Care Inspectorate within the reporting period. Of specific interest and of note to this committee, however, in terms of children's services, the opening of the supported accommodation resource within Stornoway is of note. It's also of note about the challenging Care Inspectorate inspections related to fostering, adoption and continuing care, where improvement planning and coordination continues into this reporting year, and also the development and construction work of the Western Isles Bairns House. Don't ask me to say the Gaelic name, unfortunately, but I'll stick to Bairns House as it stands now, where it was also of note in terms of the progress made within the reporting period. In summary, really the achievements social work have made in a very challenging context is welcome, and where there is identified improvement within the Chief Social Work Officer report, the continued improvement works and plans are taking place into this current reporting year, and will inform the Chief Social Work Officer report for next year, and I'm happy to take any questions on the full report itself, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Michael. So does anybody have any questions for Michael? Who's first? Councillor Ray McKenzie. Sorry, Francis, beat you to it.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, I'll get him. Sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it's a very good report, and I've only positive things to say. And as far as the Burns House, or Antai Sholly, is that right? near enough, he says. It was very impressive because the library Maug actually had a tour of the facilities, and it's very impressive indeed, and I'm sure it will be of great benefit to the community. On page 9, ASBs, it's great to see improvement there, and I only know in the last period of one incident, which is a big improvement on what's happened in the past. On page 10, it's mentioned that the MAUG for children with disabilities, I think it says it met probably 2004, but whatever, it's 2005. How is that getting on? What's the latest situation there? Thank you. That's really.
Yeah, I think it's one that I would need to leave the detail to colleagues in the room. Chair, as Chief Social Work Officer, obviously I'm based within adult services, so the more specific information might be available from colleagues.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Should come in, yeah.
I can respond to that, to the question of Councillor Mackenzie in terms of that member officer working group. It has ultimately been paused at the moment due to capacity within the Children's Services team. As was acknowledged in the outcome delivery report, the Children's Services team and the whole Education and Children's Services Department actually have been consumed for a 3-month period on response to a major inspection of children's services from a joint team of 4 inspectorates. That work is now drawing to a close, but it has been a major commitment of time to all the officers involved, officers that would have been involved in the member officer working group. So I'm happy to know, apologies that hasn't been able to progress, but now that work is over, we'll get the member officer working group reconvened as soon as possible to progress that work.
Okay, thanks, Don. Can I bring in Angus first, Francis, because Angus actually light was actually on first. Okay, Angus, come in, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think this is a good report in difficult circumstances, and I suspect that is pretty much the way things are going to be, and unless we can plug some of the gaps that we still have in social work. But there's been a lot of success in bringing new staff in, and I'm very pleased to note that. My question is on in reference to page 22, where there is a reference to the further development of proposals for an on-island residential care centre. I mean, during the short period of time that I was Chair of Education, there was in fact a proposal came forward, a funded proposal, if I remember correctly, but I can't remember exactly why it didn't go forward. But what I wanted to ask really was how, I mean, it's always an issue funding something like this. So how would we, this would be a great thing to do because we spend such a lot of money sending children away for specialist care. So how do we fund something like this? And would it mean that there will be no off-island care required, or would there still be situations where certain specialisms would be needed?
Thanks for Councillor McCormick for this question. It relates to some degree to my answer to Mackenzie as well, where there is a member officer working group established to try and investigate this. From my own understanding, although I wasn't directly involved at the time, there was a previous proposal that had been taken as far as a drawing and planning and design stage. But my memory of that was that it was still unfunded at that point, but I'd be happy to check back on records to confirm it. But as my understanding was that was an unfunded project, and probably the expectation was that it would have eventually been incorporated into a future corporate, a capital programme, should I say, not corporate programme, capital programme of the Comhairle, which hasn't been able to happen. In terms of trying to fund a new project, it's, I think, a consideration for the member officer working group to try and find a route to that. I think it's probably, it certainly won't be in the current capital programme. It will be a decision for the Comhairle whether it features in the next one. But there may be other sources of funding that could be attracted to address this. There is the potential for some degrees of funding being released through establishing the provision, but we would certainly need to have some upfront capital support to do it. Obviously, the placements that are already there are costly placements, and any placements that we could host on Ireland would reduce such costs. In response to the last part of Councillor McCormack's question, regardless of the establishment of a facility located within the Western Isles, there would still have to be recourse to occasional specialist placement on the mainland, depending on individual circumstances. The proposal for the provision at the moment was primarily to support severe and complex physical needs and short break respite, but there can still be a need for specialist social emotional based placements and other possible reasons as well. I have to be careful not to stray into matters that maybe need to be considered in private, but the member officer working group has the task of looking to both try and develop the project and source possibilities for how it could be funded. So the next and critical step would be to reconvene the MOG and see how we can get that work progressed.
Okay.
I seem to recall that there was specific funding potentially available from the Scottish Government to support this type of development. That's just a memory. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councillor Francis Murray at last.
Thank you very much, Chair. I wondered if there's, looking at the staffing and the workforce issues, if there was any place for technology in, I'm sure it's used, for, say, some of the more routine paperwork aspects of the job, for use of, I hesitate to say AI, but exploring that element to allow the social workers and the teams to work with the families, with the people involved, rather than spending all their time on paperwork. And but by coincidence, having kind of thought about that, I recently attended a justice conveners meeting Scotland-wide, and we had a report from Callum Campbell from from Social Work Scotland, who was speaking about a specific project called Near Me, which was being used particularly in remote appointments, particularly in relation to prisons. So social workers who, I think Shetland were using it, rather than travelling to every appointment to meet a prisoner who was saying in Inverness or Aberdeen, they did every 2 out of every 3 they did using this Near Me technology, which was the Scottish Government paid for the licence. It tackled any travel problems, particularly at this time of year, alleviated delays, and they spoke about how in some areas children and families social work were also using it. So I just wondered if that was something that was being used or could be used if it isn't being. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Francis. That was useful. Michael.
Yeah, thanks. Really helpful questions and comments. I think, I mean, what members will see from the report is that as resources and time and capacity of staff become more challenged, the more creative we're going to need to be to meet demand and need. I'm very clear that the social work values that I have myself and that I can see throughout the services is social work is very much a face-to-face business, but there's also very much opportunities available that can help save staff time, staff capacity. The comments even about the amount of time that social work spend on paperwork and within laptops are not new concerns within social work. I took part in the early 2000s in the 21st Century Review, where they said that social workers are spending too much time at PCs and not enough time with family. So those things, I would say, nationally have not necessarily progressed very well over the course of the last 20 years. What I would say is I've also had discussion with Callum directly. He's a very engaging individual, and as I'm sure you found when you had the justice meeting, because actually that's where there can be some really good wins for us. is where potentially you may have 1 or 2 days worth of travel to a mainland placement to be having a conversation with people. Prisons are specifically designed to be difficult to access, but sometimes it's really actually difficult even just to have basic communication with some of our individuals who are away in the mainland within prison. Is that actually the use of Near Me and at times Teams and other things that are available are real opportunities for us to be in a position that actually this taking an hour rather than a whole day in terms of the travel and all the logistics and costs that come in with that are already being explored within the department. I think there is greater consideration to be given by all 3 social work services, whilst holding the caveat we're face-to-face service, and I think social work's best done face-to-face, but there will be some aspects of keeping contact about how we actually can set out some of the social work practices that could be done more remotely. AI is certainly something that's been looked at as well within social work services currently, in terms of the potential for AI to be summarising minutes of meetings as an example, and there's opportunities there for us to be saving on some of the business support side of social work, which is also stretched and really challenged. So it's definitely something that is progressing as it goes forward. But I think there is a part where, particularly inter-island, I would hate to be in a position that families only saw us remotely. I know that's not what's being proposed this morning. So it is a really delicate balance to make sure that we get right, that when we really need to have sensitive, sometimes challenging, sometimes quite emotional discussions with people, we should be doing those things face to face wherever possible. But I think that's exactly the point that's being raised, is when we don't have to, we should find the means to do that most efficiently to give us the time to be able to do that well. So I welcome the comments, and it's something that will be part of the Chief Social Officer reporting in future.
Thanks, Mike. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chair. I just want to add to something that I think Councillor Maria and just Michael just said now. Our colleagues from the NHS use Near Me quite regularly in the Western Isles. And, you know, I would add what Michael said just there. It's really important that Near Me is used not as an alternative to face, but as an additional, as just a routine review, especially. It's very helpful in rural areas and things, especially when there's weather that consultants or anybody can't attend the review. So at least there is that. But it's important that it's not used as a substitute to face, you know, so.
Thanks, Vice Chair. Cheers. Right, so if there are no other comments, do members agree to note this Chief Social Work Officer Annual Report 2024-25? Thanks, Mike. Cheers, thanks. Right, so we'll move on to item 9, which is Libraries, Sport and Health. And this report seeks approval for continued financial support for Club Sport Lewis and Harris and Club Sport Euston Barrow. Mr. Neil MacLeod will speak to the report and answer any questions, and also Michael's is here as well to answer any other questions that anybody wants. Okay, thanks, Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as you say, the report just seeks approval to maintain the same level of grant to Club Sports Lewis and Harris and Club Sports Euston and Barrow as was given last year. And their achievements are set out in both of the appendices attached to the report. Happy to pass any questions you may have on to Mike, or if I can answer myself, I will. Thank you.
Okay, are any questions for either Neil or Michael? No? Is everyone happy? Oh, fine. Right, okay. That's good. You got up lightly, guys. Right. So do members agree to approve the recommendation at 3.1? That's good. It's good to see that. Right. Okay. Thanks. Right. We'll move on to item 10, which is Libraries and Sport and Health consultation update. The report at item 10 relates to the Libraries and Sport and Health consultation and provides an overview of initial responses to consultation. The committee approved a consultation exercise as part of the development of a library strategy. The committee also approved the commencement of a consultation exercise on mitigating the impacts of budget savings for the Sports and Health Service. A combined online survey, one in English and one in Gaelic, went live on October the 17th, 2025 and closed on November the 10th, 2025. And Mr. Neil MacLeod will again speak to the report and answer any questions. And we've also got Rennie and Michael are here as well to answer any other questions. So thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've got my backing with me here, just in case. Yes, thank you. The survey highlights is really what we're looking at here. Majority have come from Lewis, but 3/4 of the responses came from the Isle of Lewis. But again, we had 1,167 responses to the English version of the survey and 16 to the Gaelic, which as I think was a result of a very strong social media project or support towards the whole thing. Within the report, it just, as I say, picks up the highlights. Both services are seen as really valuable to the community, and are seen to be providing good quality services across the board. Very few people were contradicting that or saying it was a poor service. In relation to the library services draft strategy, that was strongly supported within it, and considerable support for maintaining existing sport and health facilities, with over 86% of the respondents saying that protecting services was more important than maintaining prices. The next steps in terms of the consultation, because the survey was the first one, is to actually go out to the community and hold a number of community events. We'll be actually away next week. Will be Lewis events. We will be looking to have one ISL here and one in Barvis to try and pick up all the west side. We're looking for, the most central points to do that. Week beginning 8 would come down to Used and Barra, and undertaking a number of consultations there. Also be an opportunity, Rennie and Mike are both going down and will be actually making contact with various groups as well, in addition to the main consultation events. We're also picking up on Harris the following week, and again that's more about timetabling and looking. And thank you again for the support of both yourself, Chair, and the Vice Chair, in sort of giving us the right ideas and the right places to go in terms of the time, and that's been much appreciated. As I say, Renee's here, Mike's here to answer any specific questions, or if anybody's wanting any more detail on where we're at just now, I'm quite happy to answer any questions as well, please. And again, in terms of maybe that's an opportunity to pick up on the issue about Sláinte membership as well, if the chair wishes. Mike can sort of pick up on some of that question that was raised earlier on. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody have any questions? Comments? Councillor Norrie MacDonald.
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. I'm going to be beginning to sound like a stuck record on this one again, so I apologise if you've heard this before. We've got a fantastic resource sitting in the library that we need to, I would say, exploit as much as we can, given the burgeoning tourism sector we have now. We had 57,000 cruise ship visitors last year, as some of you are probably aware. People who come into Stornoway will be looking for something unique, and a lot of that uniqueness sits in the library. We need to monetize the resource we have in old maps, old documents, etc. Old Stornoway and old Lewis, Western Isles in its entirety. From the Butt to Barra, we have an archive of stuff that we can use to sell, but we need investment in the service. We sometimes have to spend money to make money, and currently we don't invest enough in our libraries to be able to maximize this particular potential. Maybe if we were to invest in an officer that can help digitize some of the archive we have to make it available online and make it available for the wider public to be able to access, maybe through a paywall or whatever, or maybe to be able to utilize some of the archive that we have to make different things available to the public in terms of the maps, kind of mouse mats, T-towels, all of these things that we sit on and we don't exploit. And I've been saying this for 8 years. Unless we do something about it and maximise the revenue coming into the library service, we're always going to keep looking over our shoulders as to where we can cut something this, that, and next. We need to invest in libraries. rather than just constantly look at them as a soft target when it comes to cuts. So if we can find money, I know we're in a difficult situation when it comes to budgets, etc. But unless we invest in the library service, we're never going to be able to maximise the potential income we can have from this particular archive. And that goes from the north of Lewis to the bottom of Battersea. So we've got that resource and we should exploit it as best we can. And I'll probably say this again next year.
Okay, thanks. All right. Anyone else? Angus McCormack, Councillor Angus McCormack, and then Councillor Francis Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair. Very much welcome the report and the enthusiasm that there is for library services. Doesn't surprise me in the slightest. There isn't a specific reference, I don't think, in the report to the link between library services and the Comhairle. And I wonder, you know, have you done any kind of analysis of that particular link? I mean, from my own personal experience, I believe it's a very, very powerful link, and that it's something that we should encourage. And it fits in with very much with what Councillor MacDonald was saying. There is so much information held in our islands that we could use in very positive ways. And all of the Comhairle, I know, will have people coming to visit them and ask, and the library service will have the same people coming to ask them about their own families. And it's a really worthwhile thing to do. And these individuals, I know, will be prepared to pay for it. As things stand at the moment, my knowledge of Comhairle is that they don't necessarily set a charge on the work that they do for individuals in that sort of situation, but very much it is the case that the individuals will volunteer, you know, something. So there may be a place for structuring that kind of service in some way, and so that we can maybe take something out of it. But what really is important to me is that we maintain the link between the library service and the Comhairle.
Okay, thanks, Angus. Councillor Francis Murray.
Thank you very much, Chair. At 6.2, I'm really struck by the fact that 58.7% of people who responded to the survey were library members, and 61.6 were Sláinte members. And I think, you know, it looks like a very good response in terms of numbers. And I find it odd that you would care enough to fill in a survey, but actually not be a member of these organisations. So I think these are people who are there to be tapped to become members of either or both the library and Sláinte. I mentioned that earlier. I do think there's a you know, a place for a membership drive. It would be interesting, for example, to see how many of us sitting in here have a library card and a Sláinte card, and how often we use these two facilities. And the other point I was going to make was with the fact that the budget in Westminster is so late this year. It's just tomorrow, and then has a knock-on effect on the Scottish budget, and a knock-on effect on how tight everything is for councils setting council taxes and budgets. I think we have here a survey already of people's views, and I think it's very obvious and overwhelming that people would want to see hours maintained rather than prices maintained. So we've got an early benchmark there for consultation on people's priorities, because it strikes me that was a very good return, and well done to everybody who publicised it. Survey. Thank you.
Thanks, Leader.
Thank you very much. Just that exact point Councillor Murray just made. You know, we have got some feedback already, so it will help us come to a decision. I have membership of both. I clearly don't use either of them often enough. But what I was going to say was about the and I suppose going to be useful going forward is the way we engaged with the public, the social media campaign. I'd be interested to know if we can actually book the badminton court in the library. Is that a potential moneymaker? But you know, I think it's been really good, and I suppose just encouraging that. The point I make is encouraging people to actually attend the next series of consultations at the community council meetings I attend, and it's probably one of the areas I receive more correspondence than anything else. It's about the sport and health provision. It's about the library provision and how we can do it differently. I keep getting told we need to think outside the box, and people have ideas. So I'm feeding into them. Well, we're doing a consultation. This is your opportunity to come forward and put your out of the box ideas to us to see if there's a way we can manage it and do it. So again, if we can just keep up the social media campaign up to the next stage, I think that would be really, really appreciated.
Thanks, Leader. Yep, right. So yeah, I'll just Rennie, you want to come in?
How surprising. Sorry. And shouting across the chamber as well.
I know.
Donald does tell us about the quorum, but I'm foreign. What can I say? No, I just wanted to thank the members for their comments because I've noted them all down. It's really encouraging. It's also very frustrating because we see a lot of that as well, but we don't have the capacity. There is a vacant library development officer post within the service that has never been funded. So there's just an easy fix there if anyone has any spare money. But also to mention that next year, UK-wide, is the National Year of Reading, and that's come out of response to the outrageous decline in reading rates, reading for pleasure particularly. So we're looking at big ideas for that. But Mike and I have been talking as well, and I'm sure he will chat to this, about membership that Francis has mentioned, and those ideas about a membership drive. So the first part of the survey or this joint consultation was that Mike finally signed up to be a library member. I was already Slangevar member, just pointing out. But the same thing, so we can draw attention to that even as members, making a point with our social media campaigns next year. So that's in our minds, but Mike has already got some things to say about that.
Okay, I'll bring you in, Mike. Are you ready? Yep, you're in.
Yeah, thanks. I'll just echo Renee's comments about your thanks on the survey work. It's been really helpful for us to get a bit more of an understanding of the issues that are impacting folk. I was on Teams earlier, so I didn't hear the comments Councillor Murray made, but I didn't get a chance to speak to them. So if it's okay, I'll just come back on that first. A wee bit of background on sort of why we're sort of viewing the 3,000 as a bit of a success is back in 2020, before COVID, the target in sort of our KPI and our plan was about 3,000 members. Obviously, when COVID kicked off, everything changed. We had a sort of temporary membership in operation, which ultimately half the price of the membership. So when we came back in July 2022 to say full membership resumed, a lot of people viewed that as a almost 50% increase. So we lost probably down to about just over 2,000 members at the time. So we were starting from on the back foot almost. So it's been a gradual, steady increase to get us back to sort of where we were aiming to be. So we're happy to have made it to there, but totally agree with you that there's definitely more that can be done. Renee's talked about kind of the joined up approach. We're maybe going to try and have a look at doing a membership drive. We do, as has been mentioned as well by the leader, do a lot of work on social media. It's just trying to target the right areas because a lot of the time when we use the app and Facebook and things, we're reaching people that are already using our services. So it's getting the word out to people that maybe aren't engaging so much. And we've looked at things like trying to get in through the local media, the online media and the press and things, which all carry costs as well, but whether it's worth doing that to try and actually reach these people to bring them in. So yeah, just a little bit of sort of background on that. The other issue we have in the sort of Slangevar side is because of where we are and just with the winter, we tend to see quite a big push between sort of October and February, March time when we get big jumps, and then in summer when people are outside doing more and more, some people kind of go away a wee bit. We've also been looking at sort of the corporate side of things for membership. So obviously, as has been discussed earlier, there are likelihood of a lot of workers coming up in the next few while. So I've got meetings set up to kind of talk to them about how we can let their workforce use the leisure facilities, but also to try and sort of mitigate any impacts that that's going to have on people that are already using the services. In terms of the kind of numbers you're saying there of people that completed the survey that weren't members, I think that's a really interesting point. We have a lot of comments from them. There was part of the survey to let them just add in their own thoughts and opinions, which has been really helpful for us. And reading through that, a lot of them have been members in the past and have given up membership for the reasons that we're talking about, whether the opening times don't work for them, they can't get to the facility because it's understaffed or closed, the equipment doesn't work for them, all these sorts of things. So I think a lot of it has shown that there are people that are a good audience for us, that are a good target for us to get to, because they're telling us the reasons for why they're not using it or why they would use it. So that's given us a really good platform to work to try and get these people back in and to reach those that aren't using it. So yeah, hopefully a lot of positive things to come. Like Renee said, we're working a lot closer together on this side of things, which is kind of a bit more mirrored to kind of like the High Life programme that they've got in the Highlands, where a lot of the libraries, cafes and sport come in together, and we're sharing a lot of ideas, and the social media has been good. It's given us a bit more of a face as well. The feedback we got in the survey was that, you know, staff are one of our biggest qualities, and I think that's helped us become a bit more human, and just kind of putting a personality on the place. So yeah, we're very optimistic, and I think the survey will help us to kind of move things forward in the best way.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Thanks. Do you want to come back in, Norrie? Yep. Quick.
Yeah, I'm going to make the point because it keeps getting made to me with regularity about parking outside the sports centre, particularly at the back of this building. That there should be reserved parking there for particularly the elderly who use the sports facility, because if they have to park across the road, by the time they've walked to the sports centre, they're probably too tired to do any swimming or whatever activity they're taking part in. And every time I meet them, they're complaining about the parking, which should be reserved outside our building. And we have the ability within the Comhairle to stop our workers from parking in an area where they've been specifically asked not to park. Now, we can do something about this, and we should be enforcing whatever rules we have in place, because I get stopped regularly when I'm parked there. Sorry. But I know I keep getting stopped by folk who use the facility, and they complain that they can't get parked there because the car park is full, and it's not full by people using the sports centre. So can we delineate the parking and be strict about what it is we're doing out there?
That's one for Cala. So, yeah, you just come in.
Yeah, I would just maybe note Councillor MacDonald's point there. It's something that we have tried to tackle before, and it needs, I think, a time just now to further remind again. So I'll liaise with the Chief Office for Assets, Finance and Infrastructure on that. The parking is already designated. There are signs on the lamppost there. They're very, very small signs, but there are signs on the lampposts already designating that as sports centre parking. We do have challenges in having 3 large operations in very close proximity to each other, with the Comhairle offices, the sports centre and the school, and there are particular pinch point times in the day that adds a lot of pressure to that. But I'll take forward to consult with the Chief Officer on that.
Okay, thanks. Right, so if there are no other questions, which there are not. All right, no, well, apart from the Vice Chair, only the Vice Chair can speak. Everyone else will just have to be quiet. Go ahead.
Michael, when you're coming down for the focus group, I notice obviously the responses in North Hughes are very small. I mean, would you be able to break down that into age groups and also break it into libraries and sports centers or something? Just when you come down to the focus group, I think it'd be important to understand why the responses are smaller than proportionally. So that.
No, it's fine. No, it's all right. No worries.
No, thank you, Vice Chair. That will definitely be something that we've already started to look at, breaking down the information, because there's been an incredible amount of data that we've been able to manage to get through the survey. So what you're seeing here is just a very, very high level and picking off some of the real issues that we're currently aware of. But we certainly will have that for the MAUG. We'll actually start to have the next meeting. We'll be looking at trying to break that down into much more segments, if you like. The trouble that, in hindsight, that I've discovered is with the postcode. I was hoping to get more detail about where people were from, but when we'd asked just for the first 4 digits, but that only gives you a very wide area, like North Lewis, and that's why there's a North Lewis, South Lewis, and Lewis, because some people just said HS2, so we haven't a clue where in Lewis that is. But we are able to break down by rough area, and we're able to break down by ages.
Okay, thanks. Right, so do members agree to note the report? Right, thanks a lot. We'll move on and thanks for you guys. Thanks for coming in. Right, so we'll move on to item 11, which is Sport and Health Member Officer Working Group. This is a report by the Chief Executive and follows on from the discussion at the committee meeting of the 23rd of September 2025, where it was agreed to establish a Sport and Health Member Officer Working Group with a remit to consider the development of proposals for sustainable sport and health services. The purpose of this report is to agree the remit and appoint members to the Sport and Health Member Officer Working Group. I would like to invite Mr. Derek Mackay to lead on the appointment of the members of the MAL. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as I said, the committee is asked to approve the remit, formally appoint the chair and vice chair. In terms of the working group, member officer working group procedures, the chair and vice chair of a committee are appointed to any member officer working groups within its remit. Officers to the working group will be appointed by the chief executive. It's usually no more than 2 or 3 officers, with others attending as required. And I would suggest appointing no more between 3 and 5, and certainly no more than 5 members onto the working group in addition to the chair and vice chair. Otherwise, it becomes unwieldy and also makes it more difficult to achieve a quorum, because a quorum is 50% of the overall membership. So really seeking
proposals,
seeking confirmation that the chair and vice chair are appointed, and 3 to 5 members.
Yep. Councillor Ian MacLeod.
Thanks, Chair. I want to nominate Councillor Robert Mackenzie.
Seconder. Yeah, Angus, right. Okay, well done. Right, that's one. Anyone else? Councillor Finlay. Oh, sorry, Francis, I'll let you in first because you're red.
Can I nominate the convener, please?
Okay, are you happy with that, convener? Yes. Councillor Finlay Stewart.
I nominate Councillor Noddy MacDonald.
Yeah, I'll second that. I wanted him on it. Right, okay, so that's good. Who else? Oh, sorry, Ian, Councillor Ian Archie.
Thank you. I would like to propose Councillor Kenneth McLean, please.
Seconder.
I'll second.
And any you're happy with that, Kenneth? Is he there? Yeah. He's on it. He's on it. That's right. And Councillor Norrie MacDonald.
I don't know if I can propose the leader. I hope the leader will be interested in being on it.
Second, what do you say? Yes or no?
You're on any committees?
Yeah, you're not doing anything anyway. I mean, so, I mean, come on.
We've got not much else happening. I mean, I'd be keen to be involved, but if someone else was wanting to be on it, I don't mind stepping aside.
Okay, you're on. Right, so that's agreed. So we'll just, yeah, I mean, you can just, as your availability is as well. We'll know about your availability anyway, so that's fine. Okay, that's 5 members, I believe.
7. Yeah, that's in addition to chair and vice chair. That's 7 members. There'll be officers appointed by the chief executive, and usually 2, no more than 3 officers, but other officers may attend as required.
I mean, we're not certain how many that Paul will be able to attend anyway. It depends how busy he is and what meetings are on. Yeah. Okay. No, it's good. It's a good spread, and I think if it's an extra one, it's not going to be the end of the world to be honest. Right. Okie dokie. Is everyone happy with that? Good. Right. Okay. So you've approved the recommendations. That's fine. You'll approve them anyway, right? So we'll move on to item 13, because obviously item 12 is in private, and so we've got reports outstanding in item 13. Do members agree to note that report? Right, we'll move on to private, please. Cracking here, we're flying here. Let's get finished. Oh yeah, I'll just finish off by saying the next scheduled meeting of the committee will be on the